Hey, 4C divers! Thank you for tuning in. It is Facebook Live. That's right, coming to you live. My name is Nicole. If you don't know me, I'm your social media gal, and I do all the events for 4C. And I'm actually coming in live from Tennessee. That's right, I'm not even in South Florida, but that's the great thing about these Facebook Lives is that we can get guest presenters from all over the place, and we can give you guys some great presentations about all types of topics. So if you guys love watching these, make sure you give us that thumbs up emoji, that smiley face, or that heart emoji to let us know that you are enjoying our presentations. And if you are new to our Facebook Lives, go to www.force-e.com, go to the event page, and find tonight's presentation before 6:45 and make sure you register on Eventbrite. The reason why is that we put your name into a random name picker at the end of tonight's presentation. And we have an awesome prize tonight. If you are not nitrox certified, we are going to be giving away an SDI digital enriched air nitrox kit. So what that means is that's the academics. That's a value of $140. And then you go and you find a dive instructor at 4C and you just pay them a little bit extra. And then boom, we've got you certified to dive nitrox. So if it's something that's been on your bucket list as a course that you've been wanting to take, hopefully you will be our lucky winner tonight. So go ahead before 6:45, go on over there and register. If not, you're not going to get put into that random name picker later on. Also, if you're new here, make sure that you say hello to us in the talk or in the chat area. We love seeing where everybody is from, and we love saying hello to you. And also, if you have any questions for tonight, go ahead and write them in there, and we will answer them towards the end of the presentation. All right, so November is our Give Thanks to Our Oceans month here at 4C. And why do we want to give thanks? Well, us divers, we want to make sure that we're taking care of the environment and the critters that live in this environment so we continue to see them when we go scuba diving. So when we do this month, we like to theme it so that way you guys understand how important it is for us to do our parts as scuba divers. Not everybody gets to see that underwater world. We are like the eyes and the ears to different researchers, different non-for-profit groups and government agencies. So we need to make sure that we learn a lot to help these environments like coral reefs or the Everglades and even offshore. We need to make sure that we know how to help out. And there's lots of things you can do. We always have petitions to sign. Like right now, if you go into any of the 4C stores, we actually have petitions for a clean water movement. So if you're a resident and you can vote in the state of Florida, you can sign that petition. Also, there's lots of great resources like the CFAN group. You can go there and learn about some of their programs. And we have tonight's guest presenter. We've got Shelby. Hi, Shelby.
Hey there.
So Shelby's going to tell you guys a little bit more about the project that she helps run and how you guys can maybe get involved there as well. So Shelby, are you ready?
Yeah. Welcome to take it over. I'll start sharing my screen and we can just kind of go through a quick organizational update. And let's see, you guys, can you see my screen? Just give me a verbal yes, if so.
Yes, we can see your screen.
Awesome.
You got to blow it up a little bit more. Go into the presentation mode.
Yep. Can you see it? Great.
There we go. Woohoo!
Yeah, so I'll start out. My name's Shelby Thomas, co-founder and CEO of Ocean Rescue Alliance. We are a marine conservation and restoration nonprofit, primarily specializing in designing artificial infrastructure for different biological purposes. That's mostly artificial reefs, and we'll get into that here in a moment. But we incorporate these waves of action, primarily focusing on designing artificial reefs to benefit marine organisms and help enhance coral outplanting abilities here in South Florida. So designing reefs to be more natural reef mimicking. We also uniquely tie in art to bring more awareness and connect people back to the ocean, creating ecotourism dive sites that can really help connect communities together. Further, we conduct citizen science and education programs at each one of our sites to engage the local community, but also strategically design partnerships and collaboration to continually conduct research and contribute to sustainable restoration. I won't get into too much of the importance of coral reefs here. I know, a lot of you here are from the diving community. Our coral reefs are vital ecosystems to our oceans, providing majority of oxygen, one of the most biodiverse ecosystems in the world, and are home to thousands of fish species that we depend on for food, but also ecosystem services. They're immensely economically valuable, but even further valuable to ecosystems. There's lots of problems plaguing our coral reefs, from ocean acidification to coral bleaching and habitat degradation. Here in South Florida, we primarily have a problem with disease such as stony tissue loss and black band. And really, that's been affecting our stony corals that are our fundamental reef building corals. So we work with a lot of research to make adaptive solutions with different restoration practitioners and universities like University of Miami to be outplanting corals that are more climate resistant, more thermal tolerant, as well as disease tolerant. And so if you're interested, we'll get into a little bit of the science, but not as much on this topic today. A little bit I always like to talk about is this missing connection. Often these problems can seem out of sight, out of mind. It's a large blanket of water, and people may feel that they're too small to help, or that they're too small to have an impact on the ocean. In fact, that is quite not true. If you can think of just the little bit actions we can make as an individual, collectively has immense impacts on our oceans and ecosystems. And so that's really kind of coupled with lack of education and awareness. And one thing we really strive to do as an organization is provide direct pathways for each individual to make a tangible impact on the environment and being able to participate in restoration. And so we'll share a little bit of that here shortly. I first wanted to talk a little bit about, what we do with artificial reefs and how we're different. And on the left-hand side of the screen, you can see really what existing artificial reefs are, not only throughout the state of Florida, but all over the world. And quite honestly, I like to say this is really trash of land: construction pilings, boulders, culverts, ships. And this tire reef you see on the left-hand side is actually right off of Fort Lauderdale, the Osborne Tire Reef. They sunk 2 million tires back in the 80s, and now are spending millions of dollars since to try to remove them. And so really this is just the crux of how we treated artificial reefs historically in the past. And although I equally love diving ships and diving some of these artificial reef sites, they're inherently not the best materials, they aren't eco-friendly, and they do not act anything like a natural reef system. So what we do with Ocean Rescue Alliance is actually mimic what natural reefs do in designing reefs like you see on the top right-hand side of the screen that creates small microhabitat. And this helps serve more of a biodiverse space to provide habitat for small and different life stages of fish species. But in addition, we also incorporate different restoration techniques. So in South Florida, we focus on coral restoration. Each one of those little circles on that structure on the right-hand corner can actually receive a coral with the coral lock. And that's a threaded frag plug, so we can simply just screw in coral fragments directly to the structure. And all of our reefs are made out of an eco-friendly concrete material that incorporates natural minerals. And again, they're enhanced to help aid in restoration. And so this is an example of this same structure prior to putting coral out on it, but a week versus 9 months post deployment. And if you can imagine putting hundreds of these, we can really create another supplemental ecosystem. And I really view using artificial reefs strategically. We can now design reefs in areas that might be better suitable conditions for growing coral. We can also create reefs specifically to reduce coastal erosion, where we can put them in areas that are heavily impacted. If some of you are familiar, you may have heard of it. Beach nourishment is conducted widely all over the US and really in every coastal community. And what that is where they dredge sand offshore and dump it on the beach to maintain the beach line. This is highly expensive, and it's really a band-aid to the problem. And so one thing we're aiming to do with artificial infrastructure is designing reef sites that are biofunctional, not only creating habitat and aiding in restoration, but can serve as coastal protection. And so that's exactly what we do with structures like the one you see here in the screen. This is a little kind of quick snippet of this reef that we put out. And as you see it come around the bend, you can actually see a small juvenile tang, and then as we go further around, you can see an adult of that same species, which is exactly what we want to see. You can see kind of here circled in the middle of the screen a little baby tang, and as we go around the corner, you'll see an adult. And so we're really happy to see stuff like this on our monitoring dives, because we want to be providing the most biodiverse ecosystem that we can, that can be functional. And so I'll get into, the fun part of what we do. One of our biggest eco art projects is the 1,000 Mermaids artificial reef, where we take and can sculpt real people as mermaids to sink them in the ocean and create artificial reefs that create a really unique dive site. But we also do celebratory and memorial reefs, so each individual can have an impact on the ocean. And we are able to make plaques, but also individual sculptures or baseline modules. So can get really creative in the art direction and designing sites that are more importantly impactful for the marine environment, but can engage a variety of people. The unique thing we do with technology now, we are actually able to 3D scan any image or person, again, to make them into a reef structure. We then actually take that digital asset, and we've been making virtual and augmented reality so we can provide everyone with a diving experience. You can be in the middle of Montana or anywhere in the world and actually get to experience diving our reef sites. So we're in the process right now of releasing an educational series. It'll be 6 lesson platforms of teaching about ocean conservation and coral restoration, but using this VR and AR. We've also gotten into a little bit of NFTs, but I'm not going to get into that. But if you're interested, we do have digital art that we're also kind of selling and promoting to help fundraise for more reef builds. This is some more images of our 1,000 Mermaids Reef project. This is our 2019 and 2020 site. This is off West Palm Beach, Florida. You can see here on the right our underwater selfie tail, and still that biofunctionality. So it has marine habitat. It's not strictly just a sculpture. And again, we merge in these citizen science and education programs to really engage local communities to not only do like localized beach and dive site cleanups, but also conduct reef monitoring and restoration efforts. And so if you're interested, go to our website at oceanrescuealliance.org. We'll have more information about upcoming events. Sign up for our newsletter, and we'll send out different opportunities that we have in your local area. One of our programs is the Coral Rangers, where we're aiming to target both middle and high school students to engage in marine conservation and restoration, and really teaching around coral restoration as a whole throughout South Florida. I talked a little bit about the memorial reefs, but again, we can be really crafted to different individuals. And we've actually had a few divers who've done anniversary plaques, which has been really beautiful, where they can come and dive and see that plaque every single year. A little bit into the coral lock and coral restoration. Again, each structure that we make in South Florida really is geared towards aiding in coral restoration and outplanting. And so we use that threaded coral lock you see on the upper left-hand corner, and partner with groups like University of Miami, Coral Restoration Foundation, MOAT, and NSU as well, to receive corals and be able to outplant them at a much higher rate than you would traditionally with individually gluing corals down to structure. And so we're part of a variety of different research projects, from working with stony branching corals like acroporids and staghorn, as you can see in the upper right-hand corner, to even bolder coral species like Orbicella fabulata right in the middle photo. And this is some of our outplanting photos that we did in Key Largo with the Coral Restoration Foundation with Orbicella fabulata. And the really good benefit we have with artificial structure, again, is we can actually design bases that can mimic what a real coral skeleton would be for that species. And it's almost like expediting the rate of growth. So now they're able to fuse over that artificial skeleton and create a larger, more reproductive coral in a shorter amount of time. Ideally, when people are, outplanting a coral and it's one small 1-inch fragment, that can take decades to get to the size of this diameter of this outplant base. So now we're really being able to expedite different ways of restoration through using artificial structure. And this is one of our artificial reef bases, just like the ones I showed earlier, where we're doing actually a thermal tolerance study on the northern part of the reef tract with staghorn coral. And this is outplanted, goodness, last December. So it's almost a year, and it's actually doing phenomenal. So we've had really great results in seeing how these corals adapt. We've taken tissue samples to look at essentially how their host to cell symbiote ratio changes. And what that really means is we're just looking at how these corals are adapting to cooler waters, and can we start outplanting endangered species like this as a safeguard at more northern parts of the reef tract to really help expand their range and also creating more of a capacity to do larger scaled restoration and creating nursery sites. So that's super promising, exciting to see and document. And if you're interested in diving, we have this site and our coordinates listed on our website. I always like to end kind of with this change begins with you. We really want to advocate like every single person has an impact. And so you can do everything that you can to become an eco-conscious consumer. Of course, reduce, reuse, recycle, but looking and monitoring your carbon footprint and what you can do on a day-to-day basis to really help reduce your impact on your local environments. This is really our kind of end vision of what we foresee, not only doing throughout Florida, but all over the world with different restoration targets, are these holistic sites that serve multiple purposes. One, they can help protect against coastal erosion, providing structure that can really serve the marine environment, creating habitat, aiding in restoration and creating nurseries, and using art to really connect communities and create ecotourism. We really hope this will really incentivize more of a corporate responsibility for these coastal developers and hotels to become part of the solution. You know, we're seeing so many developers and infrastructure, especially on the coastline, that's not only affected by hurricanes that have been devastating in the last few months, but they really get to benefit off of these resources in the long term daily. And the state of Florida is really reliant on their beaches for tourism. So it's really critical to invest back into protecting these marine ecosystems. And we really hope to envision sites like this all the way up the coast of Florida and aiding in different restoration goals where we can tailor this. So I'll kind of end there and I'll talk really quickly about our last deployment that was on November 1st with the city of Hollywood. It's our first reef we deployed in Broward County. I'm just going to share some images of that instead of a presentation, but just I'll leave this here for a moment so you have it. If you're interested in any of what I just discussed or creating your own reef or want to get involved or volunteer, you can contact me at shelby@oceanrescuealliance.org. And feel free to check out our website and for more information about our projects. And so I will switch over to some images really quickly. This was super exciting. So we just did a large artificial reef deployment with the city of Hollywood on November 1st, which was a few weeks ago. And here's a few images. We put out 20 structures right off of Hollywood Beach. And so this was 20 structures that we've deployed. 5 of them are artistic. We put out about 4 mermaids and 1 industrial diver. This is one of them going down into the water. So we lift them off of a barge with a crane. And sorry, this was one of our other reef modules. I'll try to get you guys a bigger photo of the barge. Here we go. So we were really excited to finally get this reef out. It was a long process. We got to actually work with IDC, which is the Industrial Divers Corps. So they actually dove down with the bell hat to help aid in the placement of these structures. So it's super, super exciting to see. And you can see some of these reef structures, they're all outfitted with those coral locks. We're actually planning to be part of the Port Everglades is getting ready to do a deepening project where they're getting ready to dredge, and they're actually going to be removing some corals that we're hoping to receive at this site. So we will have lots of opportunities in the future to engage the public in outplanting and monitoring and research at this site. So we're extremely excited to expand that. And I'll kind of toggle through some of these photos. So we just put out another selfie tail, which you can see here. It has the City of Hollywood plaque on it. So you can dive and come take a photo. And we encourage you to do that as soon as possible, because just as you know, the marine environment, nature becomes the artist. So we will have a lot of growth that comes, and the best photo opportunities at this reef site is now. And between now and the next 3 months before we start getting some benthic recruitment. And I'll share, just like you saw some of the photos throughout the presentation, we'll get growth on these structures, and that's exactly what we want to see. So that's some more of the pictures. I'd be happy to answer, any questions ongoing that you guys may have. I'll kind of leave it on this for now. If you want more details on this Hollywood reef deployment, we also have those coordinates on our website. And we are actually intending to do another reef with the city next year that will be snorkelable right off the beach. And so more information will be coming on that soon, but we're extremely excited because This will be our first very publicly accessible site. You wouldn't have to be a diver to access it. It will be snorkelable. But as for now, the site we just deployed on November 1st is at 40 feet of depth. It's an easy open water dive. The site's set up as a drift dive, so you can kind of go from south to north through the site, and the artistic sculptures are aligned right in the middle as you drift down. We do intend to eventually add to it, but we are looking forward to making that near shore site for next year. That again will be very publicly accessible and have access to. But I'd be happy to take any questions that you guys may have, and would hope to work with more of the diving community here moving forward.
Awesome. All right, Shelby. Well, yes, there are some questions coming in. First, they want to know, how do you anchor those reefs or your modules into the sand or into the reef?
So we actually don't have to anchor the ones that we have there. They're each about 5,000 pounds plus, so they're very heavy. And the way that we have the base essentially has a lip that comes out that will settle in the sediment, and then that provides its own anchor. So we don't need to attach. We're not close to hard bottom. We will look at different attachment methods for the near shore sites, and that will really just depend on the sediment depth. So right now, there's no anchoring physically to hard bottom substrate. We have enough sediment that creates its own anchor from the foot of our base.
So then that's the follow-up question is after all these storms and hurricanes that we've had the last couple of years, how is your West Palm site holding up? Are any of the structures toppled over?
Yeah, so we've actually had really no impacts at all from the hurricanes. We had initially worked with a different barge operator. So we actually had the barge donated the last few years from the county at the West Palm Beach site. So we didn't have the leverage to have a diver assisted deployment. So the only breakage that we had on some of those structures was just deployment error, where they were placed on another artificial structure, the RBM reef. So parts of it was put on top of construction pilings. So that's why there was a little bit of breakage. But this one, we're really confident. They were all placed perfectly, and so there was no damage. So they should weather fine. We've been through about 3 hurricanes at the West Palm Beach site. We have not been out to check since this last storm, but I would not anticipate any damage.
Okay. And so with these sites, you have to have these things permitted. How long does it take for you to get permits to put these out?
Great question. So it really depends on the depth. The closer to shore, it's going to take a little longer for the permits, and it also depends on what natural resources are there. But in general, it takes about 1 year to 3 years, depending on the site and the specifics. And really, Florida has such a big artificial reef program. We have hundreds of permit sites that are open and we could deploy in this year, but we're limited on funding to do so. But when we're looking at, creating new sites, that normally is 1 year to 3 years, just depending on what's present. We do environmental surveys and look at what kind of impacts we're having. And again, like sediment and bathymetry ratios and things like that.
They're asking how much does it cost, but I think like that's an open-ended question because it kind of just depends on what site you're going to go to and what manpower you need. But typically is the range that you guys have to
yeah, I can answer that. So we essentially, just for efficiency, always like to fill the barge to the capacity. So we like the smallest barge, we can fit about 20 modules, or we can go to a larger barge, so that's about 100. For an individual reef unit, let's say somebody wanted to get their own reef, the base units are about $3,000. If you're wanting to get a custom artistic reef, it's between $7,000 and $15,000, depending on how complex the art is and like what kind of mold. We're needing to make a brand new mold for each new art installation. But if you're going with one of our baseline designs, it's a lot more efficiently cost in terms of economy of scale. And then if we can get more people on board, we're able to actually do a full deployment. So we generally, if we're doing a 20 module deployment, that can cost about 150 to 250,000, and that's including the deployment itself, which some people don't realize how expensive it is to operate a barge. I mean, it's between $25,000 and $45,000 a day, depending on the size. So it's a lot of logistics that go into play for moving these structures. But once it's out there, it creates immense value, not only for the environment, but also recreationally.
But also, I mean, the numbers that you're throwing out, I mean, that's nothing in comparison to if someone wants to sink a ship. I mean, You have to acquire that ship. You have to get it cleaned. You have to get the permits for it, then deploy it. I mean, those are millions of dollars. You're not talking millions of dollars to create these sites, which is more economically friendly for the area. So you can do more and bring in, more of the donation money to be spread up throughout the area.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then, of course, we can make larger impact. And it also depends on the structure type. For example, breakwaters versus the artistic versus really just the habitat modules. We like to do assortments of sites, just like that vision photo that I showed. So those can be, depending on the footprint, like a little larger, but we generally try to aim for at least a 20 module deployment. So we're not going to go just deploy one or two structures. So we just want to make sure we're making an environmental positive impact, and making sure we're being as most resourceful and efficient as possible. And I see a few more questions about the surveys, on ongoing surveys and fish counts. Yes. So we monitor at least quarterly, and some of this is just contingent on funding. So we've applied for some grants to help do these monitoring. But for our last two deployments, we've monitored quarterly, and we do fish counts, we do the benthic surveys, and then also for the outplanted corals, we do growth and also different genetic studies on those corals as well. There's lots of ways people can engage with us for that. So we have a diver listserv. You can sign up and we'll send out in advance. But generally we take a smaller team. So for these monitoring, so we won't take a lot of people out, but there is opportunities to do so. And we do plan on monitoring this new reef deployment site as well. And when we do that bigger outplant, we actually are going to try to strive for like the biggest community-led outplanting event ever. Make a world record for it. There's about 30,000 corals that are needing to be removed and relocated. So it would be wonderful to try to get the dive community of South Florida together and really get this done at a very large scale and engage many people to do so.
Absolutely. So you talked about deploying the Hollywood one, and it was November, and then you're going to be somewhere in the same area, a shallower site. But is there any other sites in the South Florida area, maybe in longer term, that you guys are trying to target?
Yeah, actually, we're working closely with Reef, which actually just got the authorization from the city and funding, and permits already open to do a variety of different artistic installations that will cover 7 miles in South Beach that will start next summer. So we're part of that. We're going to be mostly contributing to the biological habitat structures and also aiding in some of the artistic construction and development for that site. So we have a lot of plans. We're also partnered with the Wahoo Bay project, which we have about 2 structures that will go out there. It's more of an educational site that's in the Jupiter Inlet. And let's see what else. Hollywood as well. We'd like to expand through Fort Lauderdale. We're trying to really get engaged with other hotels now and also businesses to try to make a larger imprint and bigger sites in Florida. But right now, the next projects on the horizon are the nearshore Hollywood site for next year, as well as the Reef Miami site.
Awesome.
But if anyone has suggestions, we're always willing to do some more projects.
Well, there is a suggestion. They want to know if you're going to put any at the Blue Heron Bridge.
Yeah, Blue Herons actually has a variety of artificial structures out there already. Actually, that our reef builder did, like that shark one that's there. So we could certainly do more. I don't know if there's anything that's like funded and slated in terms of like with that community at the moment in terms of priority, but we absolutely could.
Mm-hmm.
And Blue Heron's a great example of like a very publicly accessible dive site, and we'd love to make more of those throughout the state of Florida. And I think Blue Heron's a good staple of just a beautiful opportunity to immerse divers and snorkelers, safely in a marine environment. And I think we can do that in a variety of areas, including on the west coast of Florida. We actually have a bigger capacity because there's less wave energy on that coast to do that.
Okay, so a couple people had to tune in late because they were dealing with their infants, but a couple of people want to know about go back to the structures and what they're made of. They miss what the materials were built from and how are they cast.
Yeah, so we use a pH neutral concrete. We incorporate natural minerals like calcium carbonate and basalt fibers. So we actually have worked with material scientists, but also at the University of Miami, and our reef builder has a material expert design background. And so all of these, again, are pH neutral, environmentally friendly, and we continually are trying to innovate that design. So we actually just partnered with a new company called Carbon Sync, and this actually has a carbon crystal that can sequester carbon. So we're trying to make a the most carbon neutral structure that we can, but also designing structures that can sequester and store carbon from the ocean more stably. So we're continually trying to innovate and invest research into designing the most efficient, eco-friendly materials to build these reefs out of that are still very structurally inclined and have structural integrity. But right now, we've been building for the last 4 years with this material, and it's been very efficient.
Okay, another question is, as divers that are going to go dive on these sites, there's the cardinal rules of, please don't, sit on them, and don't like hold on to the hands of the mermaids and like break those things. We want to make sure that we preserve these, but is there any other rules that we should be aware of when we're diving with these structures?
I mean, I would say, yeah, look, don't touch, is always a good thing, right? In the marine environment, leave no trace kind of thing is always great. We haven't really had any issues. They are really strong, so honestly, they can take a little beatering and stepping on. We don't advise that, but they're not extremely fragile. But especially when we outplant natural resources, obviously it's making sure you're leaving that marine ecosystem to thrive. And the only aspect, I would say, we're trying to set up our sites now very intentionally, since we had the funding for this last deployment, to be able to make it where it's a little more strategic and we were able to use divers to place them. So it's an easier drift dive. If you've dove our site in West Palm Beach, unfortunately, because we didn't have any funding for that, we had the barge donated from the county. Some of them were more at leisure, like some are 5 to 10 feet away from each other, some are 50. So this one, they're actually between 10 feet of each other, so it's very easier to navigate than the other sites. So we plan to still strategically do that in the future, and design reefs to be also efficient for diving. And perhaps we can even make underwater art parks, and then also can design a site to train divers. Right, we have a few swim throughs at our West Palm Beach site that you can dive through, so you can check your buoyancy and do some fun stuff there.
Also, I remember when I did a dive there a couple of years ago with you guys, when it first was deployed, we already had a lionfish move in on it. So do you guys allow for lionfish hunting and trash collection at these sites?
Highly encouraged. Yes. We always, we have site cleanups quite frequently. So that's something we try to at least do every 3 or 6 months if possible. But if you see any lionfish, feel free to take them away, and the trash. But we really have been fortunate not to have much trash at our West Palm Beach site. But yeah, we always encourage divers, do things like that. And perhaps if we do get heavy lionfish recruitment, we'll have like a derby or something, and try to target that removal.
Absolutely. Awesome. Well, I think you nailed all the questions, Shelby. Thank you so much. If you guys ever have any questions about the project or the sites themselves, Shelby, how can they get a hold of you?
Yeah, the best way to contact me would be via email. It's just shelby@oceanrescuealliance.org. Also, our phone number is on the website. You can reach out there as well. We have our social medias, Ocean Rescue Alliance, as well as 1,000 Mermaids project. So feel free to check us out there. And if you're interested in volunteering or creating your own reef or getting involved in some way, we'd be happy to hear from you.
Awesome. So guys, if you tuned in at the beginning of this presentation, just remember November here at 4C Scuba Centers is our Give Thanks to Our Oceans month. So here is that event page. I wanted to remind you guys that during the month of November, we're encouraging you guys, divers, to do their part to keep the ocean clean. So we are offering 2 free air fills or 1 free nitrox fill to people who post a photo on one of our Facebook pages of themselves collecting trash from a dive. Even if it's just one piece of trash or it's multiple pieces of trash, we want to see your photos. We want to see you doing your part and clean up the ocean. Limit 1 post per person. And then once you post it, just come on in and show the guys at the fill station and they'll hook you up with your fill. All right. So some other things to just note. If you go onto that page, those eco-friendly products, clicks right in. Here's a presentation that we did about plastics in the oceans, where there's blogs. There's all types of really cool things on this page that you should take a look at. And also, if you shop online during the month of November, We are giving away, if you spend $100 or more, we'll give you a Stream to Sea defog, where the defog is actually healthy for the environment, and also the bottle itself is biodegradable. So all types of cool things that you guys can shop here. Also, if you're in the shopping mode, make sure that you clear your turkeys on Thursday, and on Friday, come on into our big Black Friday sales. Deals so big, they can't even fit on this page. So here's our landing page, guys. We start on November 25th. The sale goes through the 28th. And guys, there is some awesome stuff. I mean, this is just little snacks right here of some of the stuff that we have on sale. We've got big packages. We have doorbusters and so much more. So guys, come on in, come see us, shop your local dive shops here. We've got 5 now. We've got Fort Lauderdale, Pompano Beach, Boca Raton, Boynton Beach, and Riviera Beach, 4 Seas. And we'd love to see you after Thanksgiving. And just a reminder, Thanksgiving, we are closed. We like to give that time to our families, our staff, to be with their families. So we are not open on Thanksgiving, but on Friday we are open our normal hours, and we'd love to see you throughout the weekend. All right, so
one quick comment, Nicole, just on the thought of shopping and Black Friday. If you all did not know, in one easy way to support us, if you shop on Amazon, there's Amazon Smile, which changes nothing about your guys' purchasing and sorting and finding, but you can actually select a nonprofit that they'll donate a little bit of the proceeds from buying things with them on Amazon Smile. So we are on there. If you select a Thousand Mermaids Project or Ocean Rescue Alliance, Amazon donates to nonprofits that way. So check out amazonsmile.com when you're shopping. It's also Giving Tuesday coming up. So if you're considering supporting a nonprofit, I'd hope you'd consider us and supporting our marine environments here in South Florida. But thanks again, Nicole, and I'll let you take it from there.
No worries. Awesome. So, all right, guys, like we said, we always like to reward you guys for signing in and tuning in. So we are going to do our random name picker, and the prize for tonight is an SDI Enriched Air Nitrox Academics Code. So basically, it's your academics portion of the nitrox certification. So if you have not gotten that certification yet and you are a winner, you're going to be really stoked, because that's a value of $140. Woohoo! All right, so there's everybody, and let's go ahead and do our random name picker. And that person is Gary. Gary, I don't know if you're watching. Maybe I saw you. If you're here, go ahead and say hello, wave at us. Say you're super excited to go and learn how to be an enriched air diver. Okay, and I'm feeling kind of generous because it is Thanksgiving, right? So let's go ahead and do 2 air fills to any of the 4C dive shops. 2 air fills go to Leah. Leah Baker, are you watching? Give us a hello. Give us a wave. Awesome. All right, guys. So let me move that. Thank you all for tuning in. Thank you, Shelby, for a fantastic presentation. We love learning about what is going on here in our backyard. And we hope to be able to support your guys' project here, whether it's in funding, or if it's with any kind of surveying or diving or cleaning up that area, keeping it free of marine debris. So guys, again, make sure you follow them on their social media accounts. They have Instagram, they have Facebook. Are you guys on TikTok?
We are on TikTok.
Woo! All right.
And Twitter. So check it out.
All right. So if you guys want to follow them, they would really appreciate it. And also make sure to follow us, because we're going to have some awesome stuff coming up. Make sure you tune in for next year. We're going to have some great presentations lined up. Thanks, everybody, and have a great rest of the week, and happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Bye.